and Julius Caesar like 1,000 years ago. Was that the Romans were around 1,000 years ago, right?
No.
I mean, because Christianity, at the end of the day, with no proof, everything is mythology. Everything. With no proof. With proof, then you examine the proof. It's super simple. And anybody that argues against that is you're just biased.
Okay, so with no proof, it's just mythology. With proof, you just accept it. So what are the standards of proof? What worldview are you going to appeal to that says this constitutes genuine proof and this is not acceptable as proof? He's simply assuming a certain standard of proof.
You have your own ideas. If you have some proof that there was a God, that this God had one son and he made this son come down and get the fuck beat out of him and nailed to a board so that we could all have no sin. Can you show me some studies?
Studies by whom? Who are the appointed studiers? So is this a publication of All Scholars Review, or do you want objective students of these events who are not themselves Christians, who can verify objectively that yes, Jesus rose from the dead, but no, we're not going to believe in him? How's that objective? All right. In other words, you're assuming, you, Joe Rogan, are assuming a certain standard of proof that you just quietly adopt as though it's self-evident. It's not self-evident at all.
Can you do you have a box of evidence that you can pull out and we can examine all the different pieces that points to the undeniable conclusion that that's true? Because if you don't, then it's a myth. Then you're believing mythology.
So undeniable. So in the gospel accounts, Jesus, remember that Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. He raised Lazarus from the dead, and he did it after Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. And a number of important people were there commiserating with Mary and Martha. And when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, he didn't win over the entire crowd. It says that many believed in him, and then others went off to try to get him killed. And then later there was a plot to kill Lazarus because the undeniable proof that Jesus was a prophet from God, but Jesus was sent from God, that undeniable proof had to be killed. In other words, what Joe Rogan is leaving out of the fact is that the people who are demanding proof are themselves sinners. And if this thing that is being claimed by the Christians, that Jesus is Lord, if that's true, then they are condemned sinners. You're not talking about objective judges who have no skin in the game. You're talking about sinners who are under condemnation if these things are true.
Doesn't mean it's not real, but if you put all your fucking eggs in that basket and you don't have any proof at all, well, you're entering into this weird world where you don't pay attention to shit. You're entering into this weird world where you ignore certain aspects of things because you've decided what is and what isn't.
Yeah, you've decided what is and what isn't proof. Right. So when this is a good example, this is a prime example of someone who cannot see that he's looking out of his own eyeballs. He can't see. He says, what are you seeing over there? And what are you seeing over there? I just know things.
That's not thinking. That's like
I agree. That's not thinking.
Convenient cookie holder placement of ideas. It's not thinking. Because if you're thinking, you can't accept it. If you're thinking, you go, wait, what? He came back from the dead? Has anybody ever done that? 3 days? Came back from the dead. I don't think you can do that. I mean, that's what people would do.
Okay, so here's the problem. And it's not a minor problem. Everyone agrees, Christians, non-Christians, everyone agrees that there used to be at one time nothing but inanimate matter. Nothing but matter. Christians believe that there was nothing, and then God created inanimate matter, and then Adam was made from the dust of the ground. Materialists believe that inanimate matter always existed. Now, Joe Rogan believes, just as much as I do, that life came from the dead. Right? I mean, there he is. Right? Where did he come from? Well, from the dead. Where did I come from? According to materialism, I came from the dead also. What Christians are distinguished by is not that they believe that life comes from death. We believe that it happened twice. right? We believe that Adam was created from the dust of the ground, and we believe that the second Adam came from the grave. We believe that death comes from life. But Joe Rogan can't pretend that that the thing is incredible because what used to be entirely death is now alive, because he's alive.
Normally. But, you know, like my kid had a function today, and I went to this function, and they're all, we're singing God Bless America, and there's like something about heaven in there, and their school prayer. I'm like, well, okay, are we teaching people? We're teaching kids things, right? What's heaven? Where is this? Is this a real thing? Are we just pretending heaven's real so the kids feel good and they can get through 12th grade? What are we doing here? What are we doing? You know, we have to make shit up about stuff that we don't know instead of just accepting what we do know. Instead of just celebrating and accepting what we know about life.
Celebrating and accepting the fact that given no heaven, our lives are meaningless. If there is no transcendent reality above us, then, Joe Rogan, you are just meat and bones and protoplasm, making an argument, beating the air. Your life has no meaning. Your words have no meaning. Your thoughts have no meaning. If there is no transcendent reality above us that grants us meaning, you're just atoms in motion, right? And so is your proof. All the demanded proof. It's just atoms in motion. You're demanding that we make some atoms move differently.
We have to pretend that there's a heaven, and you're going to go to heaven when you die. What the f*** are you talking about? Like, you're teaching my kid nonsense. Why don't you teach him some Rumpelstiltskin shit? Why don't you make some shit up about leprechauns? You're making shit up about heaven. I'm not saying heaven doesn't exist, but you're just making it up. You're teaching a school, in a class. You're making them, and then in heaven, God in heaven. God in heaven? Where's heaven? Who's God? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're making up some shit. You're making up some shit in a school. Like, and you don't, okay, like if the kid comes to you, like, where is heaven on a map? Can you take me to, do we have a Google Earth? Can we check out heaven? Can I see the?
So, it's called Google Earth. It's not Google Heaven. Google doesn't know anything about heaven. Google is just as blind as you are.
Can I see the harp? Oh, well, you know, heaven is our Heavenly Father. That was another thing. Heavenly Father. Like, our Heavenly Father? Really? This is what we're teaching in school? Heavenly Fathers. How come he's not a chick? You know? Moms are usually better at, like, raising you than dads. Dads are working all the time.
It is weird that when you have a kid that you do nothing but lie to them their first 10 years of their life, like about Santa Claus, bunny rabbits, Jesus, monsters. Well,
the Jesus thing keeps going. That's the weirdest part about it. And again, it's just not saying that Jesus isn't real. It's just saying, like, if that story existed in any other form other than religion, you'd be like, what? If you looked at that.
If it existed in any other form other than religion, and it actually happened that way, presto, you're suddenly talking about religion, because men don't come back from the dead in fits of absent-mindedness. There's a purpose in it. And not only is there a purpose in it, but there's a transcendent purpose in it.
That story outside of religion, if it wasn't something that, you know, you made the sign of the cross every morning and went to school and prayed, if you just read the story about a guy who was magic and could turn water into wine, who could heal people. What did he do with fish? Did he fucking give people fish or some shit? Make some fish? The whole thing's so stupid. You'd be like, wait a minute, who told you this? Well, it's a long story. See, it was actually spoken about for about 1,000 years before anybody bothered to write it down. You'd be like, wait, what? Shut the f*** up. They told it for 1,000.
So 1,000 years. This gentleman is maintaining that nobody wrote these things down for about 1,000 years. That's the time of William the Conqueror. That's halfway between our time and Christ's time. It was written down almost immediately. The disciples were no doubt taking notes.
For 1,000 years. The Old Testament, they told the Old Testament for 1,000 years. They used it was spoken. For 1,000 years. That's so long. That's like, just stop and think how stupid that is. That literally that would be like going back to like the Julius Caesar days. And Julius Caesar like 1,000 years ago. Was that the Romans were around 1,000 years ago, right?
No. So let's, before we continue, we need to point out that it's really bad for Christians to make stuff up on the fly.
No, before that. It'd be like Genghis Khan. It'd be like Genghis Khan's life, and no one bothers to write it down until now. I mean, that's so stupid. The idea.
Yeah, that would be stupid if there were anything close to resembling the facts, but it isn't. Mr. Against making things up.
The idea behind that is so stupid that you could tell a story for 1,000 years and get it right when you write it down.
It is interesting, like, Pope, he believes in the Big Bang Theory and evolution's real. So it seems like they kind of have to slowly start accepting everything. But when it comes down to it, they still believe, a magic man, Jesus flying around with lasers.
I tell you what, man, it always weirds me out when they have that guy on TV. It weirds me the f*** out. It weirds me out. I was watching Colbert. It was so strange, man. It was Colbert and Gaffigan, who I love, Jim Gaffigan, and Maria Shriver, and some other weird dude. And they were sitting around talking about what it means to be a Catholic. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And they were talking about forgiveness, and Catholicism is all about forgiveness. And Maria Shriver is like being all proud to be a Catholic. And they're showing the Mass. I'm like, hit the brakes. Aren't you grown adults? Like, you guys you're into nonsense? So you're into nonsense. Is that what this is? Because you're showing nonsense. You got this guy dressed like he's in a Harry Potter movie, and he's standing in front of all these people with a chalice. He's wearing a cult outfit. He literally is wearing a cult outfit from 1,000 years ago.
Okay, so I'm with Joe Rogan on the outfit. Fine.
And you're all sitting there listening to this nonsense. Total nonsense. He's not even speaking it in English.
Yeah, it's not in English. It must be nonsense. I do not understand what that ignoramus is saying in this other language that I don't know.
And you're there. You're like, yes, we're here. We're here to witness the Holy Father. Like, what the f*** are you talking about? You're there to witness a guy who works for an organization that owns a building that houses the largest gay bathhouse in Europe.
Okay, I'm with you there too. That'd be bad if true, and yeah, Christians would be against that.
Yeah, that's what the Vatican owns. I mean, the whole thing is so fucking ridiculous, and that this guy is meeting with all these people all across America, and they're all so happy to meet the Pope. This is so amazing, and he listens to people's stories, and he decides whether or not people should be able to get married if they're gay. It's hilarious.
Yes, hilarious.